You can quit and there is a promotion available to you. What happens when you get this promotion? Oh my gosh, the payoff is unbelievable, and so much abundance across the board will come in.
Hello, this is the May Be Mindful podcast, and I am your host, Hannah May. I'm a mother of 6, conscious birth instructor and educator, spiritual growth facilitator, and certified hypnotist. This podcast is about inspiring hope, expanding awareness and consciousness in order to revolutionize the way we live and experience our lives. You can expect thought-provoking episodes each week spanning a range of topics, drawing from both my own journey of transformation and healing and working with others. I hope you find this podcast to be informative, refreshing, illuminating, and instrumental in your own soul's evolution and growth. Let's jump right in.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the May Be Mindful podcast. I wanted to share something that was coming forward that was on my heart. I think a lot of people in general are walking around absolutely exhausted, not because life is actually asking too much of them, because I really believe that when we are in the substance of our life, like in the work of life, like I think motherhood, for example, that shit is exhausting. And so when we're in that, like tilling the soil of life and really contributing to humanity in some meaningful way, we're gonna be challenged. We're gonna be called to rise. We're gonna be doing things that are outside our comfort zone naturally. That's good work, and welcome to life. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kind of fatigue and exhaustion that doesn't give back, that takes you down a spiral and actually causes you to become disconnected from yourself. This can happen even when we're doing something worthwhile, right? But maybe we're taking on responsibilities and carrying burdens that are not for us to carry. For example, your full-time job has become, in addition to everything else that you're trying to do, like say being a parent, for example, or being a boss or being a good employee, like whatever it is, your full-time job has become also making sure that everyone around you is okay, making sure that nobody's uncomfortable, making sure that nobody misunderstands you, that people approve of you, making sure that nobody's upset, taking responsibility for other people's emotions and feelings. And I just want to tell you today that you could quit that job. Like you could quit that job. And the reason why you can quit that job is because it's not yours. And the reason why you should quit that job is because it's a rigged game and it's an impossible job. So you're never gonna succeed. It's never gonna be fulfilling or rewarding, and it's just always gonna suck, right? So think about any other job. There's some kind of gratification in it. If you're at the wrong job, when you quit that job, you have immense relief. Have you ever worked a job where you just sort of were like, thought you had to do it and you wanted to quit, but you just kept doing it, and eventually you made that leap and you quit? And it was like such exhilaration and relief. And you were just like, oh my gosh, this is freedom. And you feel like you reclaim yourself again. That's what quitting a job like this, of taking on a burden or a responsibility that you may have been carrying. And I have clients sometimes that have been carrying burdens for decade after decade after decade. And it's really only until they get to the point and the place where it starts breaking them in some way, where it becomes intolerable, and they see the cost of it, that they become willing to let it go. So why is it so hard to let something go that's not even yours to carry in the first place? Okay, the short answer is limiting beliefs and false conditioning. And this goes back to when we're younger. And this is why I'm such a fan of the subconscious work, because this is where we get underneath the pattern and we can have an identity shift to the point where we no longer have to do something, because we now understand and believe that it's just not our job. We give our permission to stop doing it, and we see clearly. So until we see that it's not our job, usually we keep doing it because there's some part of us that feels compelled to do so. But that is the conditioning piece, okay? And so, you can be promoted, right? And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that promotion looks like in a minute, so stay with me. So where does this stuff come from? We'll just briefly talk about it. It's interesting because many of us never consciously accepted this position. It was basically just handed to us, pressed in, we inherited it. I mean, there's a myriad of different circumstances, and there's a whole spectrum with different types of dysfunction that we can grow up in, but we are all human, and we are all to some degree unconscious, hopefully becoming more conscious and spiritually awakened. But, if you grew up in any type of addiction, alcoholism, mental illness, any type of chronic conflict or emotional unpredictability, impossible standards, any kind of dysfunctional environment, right? A perfectionistic environment, whether it was in a performative way, like nothing was ever enough, and you weren't ever really just truly acknowledged and seen and valued for whatever your best was in that moment. Like it always had to be better. It was always corrected. And maybe you got the attention from it being better. And so then you felt like, okay, that's what you had to do to get that love and attention and approval, even if it had sort of a negative association. And you could never just really rest and just be okay with wherever you were at. Or maybe it was an emotionally perfectionistic environment where you really had to monitor yourself because it wasn't okay to have feelings, and maybe it wasn't safe. Any sort of, child parentification, right, which is where the child ends up carrying and taking on responsibilities of the parent to provide either some type of emotional or practical support rather than just being able to just do their job, right, and play and learn and build empathy and be a kid, right? So there's usually, we step into like a very hyper vigilant role as a result of this. Or maybe, and this is what's been sort of trending in my mind lately, this idea of being too much. And maybe we had to learn to tone it down for whatever reason, whether, it was volatile in our home and we had to just keep everything smaller, put it in a box, usually because of unchanneled gifting. So what I find is a lot of times kids' gifting is intense. It hasn't been refined. It hasn't learned how to channel properly yet. And that's a learning process that we all have to go through. So maybe it was too much for our parents, or maybe teachers or other people around us or siblings didn't understand it, and maybe either they shut it down or they made fun of it. I mean, there's a myriad of different experiences we can have with this, right? And so with kids, we don't actually have the ability to accurately interpret what's happening around us. We don't ask, is this environment healthy? Like, we don't really go through this process of assessing and assigning the correct meaning because we don't know how to do that. We're a blank canvas. We're just taking and absorbing, and we're being conditioned, and we are the canvas. Our subconscious and our soul really is the canvas. Instead, we really go, oh, how do I need to adapt to survive so I feel safe, so I feel loved, so I feel approved of? Because that's the only thing that I care about, really. It's the basic survival, right? So then we step into these different roles. Maybe you become the peacekeeper or the enabler. Maybe you became a monitor where you became highly attuned and highly sensitive to people's emotional states, to their energy. Maybe you were already wired that way, higher sensitivity, empath type person, but then you throw in that aspect of dysfunction and then it just turns you into a hypervigilant mess. So these aspects of our conditioning can really block us in our purpose and in our calling because it conflicts. And so we end up having conflicting values that create a lot of confusion in us, and it can be hard to sort through it all. And this is why I'm such a fan of the subconscious work as well, because we can really drop into crystal clear clarity and come back to the truth really of who we are and see ourselves in the light of truth versus in the light of how we were conditioned, which is the whole goal and the whole point of spiritual awakening and individuation. The good news is that the job description that you took on during a season of survival that you've identified with doesn't have to remain that way. You can make the choice, if you get ready and if you have this deeper subconscious identity shift, to toss that shit. to quit, to literally quit the job. And that's beautiful clarity. But it usually does require going deeper than the surface, because most of us stay on the surface of trying to problem solve and manage symptoms, right? But the good news is the brain is neuroplastic. The nervous system can heal, and the subconscious can be repatterned, and it can update. It's like, oh my gosh, something that felt impossible can change like that and completely shift. And we can have massive monumental breakthroughs very quickly. And the thing is surface change might last a few days, it might last a couple weeks, or it might last a minute and a half. And so many people get frustrated because they know what they should do. They repeat the affirmations, they read the books, they do the self-help, they have done a ton of therapy, and they even understand the pattern, or so they think intellectually from a surface level, from a more removed perspective, but they haven't dropped into the paradox, or they haven't gotten underneath the pattern and seen something that you can really only see from underneath it. Versus, I think I've given you the metaphor before, it's like sitting in your driver's seat needing to fix something under the hood of your car, but just staring at the dashboard thinking that that's going to solve the problem, versus getting under the hood of your car and being like, oh, I see, and maybe having a mechanic take a look and be like, oh, see this, like this is what's happening here. And here's really what I know to be true. God did not assign you the job of manning another person's emotional world. He gave you authority over your own being, your own mind. So here is where the promotion is, okay, when you quit. Because you quit a job, you're like, well, now what? Like, if you've been doing something your whole life, well, what the fuck now? Okay, you get to quit the job that was never for you, and you get to be promoted to something much better. Okay, now what that looks like, I don't know, but the promotion is back to you. So it's like you get to take responsibility for you. You get to start to pay attention to all the things that you ignored in yourself that you're needing, that maybe you're needing to be acknowledged, to be seen, to be witnessed, to be healed, that you can only do through presence. And you cannot do that if you're distracted with somebody else's junk, like somebody else's, not to criticize their stuff, but it's somebody else's toxicity essentially that they are responsible for carrying and working through. And really we just do the person a disservice if we keep enabling, for example. So oftentimes these things are distractions, and of course distractions can show up a million other ways for us if we're not wanting to be present with ourselves because it feels uncomfortable. So this new job description might feel weird. It might even feel wrong. You might have been told it's selfish. But here's the thing. Just because something is different doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's new. And my guess is that you're needing something new. So a lot of this has to be normalized. Like the old way was normalized. This now has to be normalized. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is I'm doing my best to normalize this for you. And you may not believe me, because you really do have to have the experience and then reap the rewards of it to go, okay, yeah, this is a better way. Once you get through like the shame burn off of doing something that you didn't think you had permission to do, like pay attention to yourself in a new way, practice self-care in a radical way. So that's the short story. You can quit, and there is a promotion available to you. What happens when you get this promotion? Oh my gosh, the payoff is unbelievable, and so much abundance across the board will come in, like in every respect. I'm not kidding. Like creatively, with energy, in relationships, in connection, in your mental, spiritual, emotional state. It's incredible what happens when we shift into the right channels and we transition into that place that we are supposed to be, and we become available for what's actually available for us. Because if we're at the wrong job, then we can't really reap the benefits at the right job, because we're not showing up to work. So when we show up to work in a new way, and it is still work. So at this new job, yeah, you've got your work cut out for you, right? Because there's going to be burn off of discomfort if you're doing something that's new. Naturally, you're going to be pressing and challenging your own personal comfort level, even if it's something that's perfectly normal, acceptable, that other people have no problem doing. If your nervous system is not familiar with it, it's going to throw some alerts and some flags. And that's because your nervous system just automatically assigns anything new to, like, watch out, this could be dangerous. And it's not. And so it really comes back to grounding into the awareness of that deeper purpose and a spiritual connection, and anchoring in with a practice, ideally, to yourself. And that is the invitation, my friends. Anyways, lots of love. We've got another round coming up. Let me know if you want to join. It's not too late, of Awaken, a 7th Path self-hypnosis training. And again, reach out if you have any questions, and I will talk to you next time. So long.
Thank you for tuning in to the May Be Mindful podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us grow and improve. For more information, resources, and exclusive content, visit our website at maybemindful.com, or go ahead and follow us over on Instagram at maybemindful. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please give me a follow, screenshot the episode, and go ahead and tag me until next week when I bring you another thought-provoking and inspiring topic. Until then,